Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April Abundance version of 100 Pitches with Honey. We're calling it April Abundance because normally on the series we have 3 readers and sometimes 4, but because it's National Poetry Month tonight, it's 5, count them 5 fabulous people are going to be reading for you tonight. I'm just going to put briefly in the chat some information about the series one more time for those people that are still arriving, where you can find the series on social media. Our older readings all are on YouTube. And then we might have a surprise reading coming up on May 6th, and then our next official reading, May 23rd, for the Braving the Body anthology. So please find me on social media. Look up some old readings on YouTube, and feel free to join us for one of these future events. Got more interviews and kind of some different interesting stuff coming up later this year as well. We are going to then get ready to get started so that our 5 readers have a chance to wow you with their stuff. I'm just going to really briefly say that I have varying degrees of familiarity with our 5 readers tonight, both as people and as writers. Some I'm just getting to know their work. Some of them I have longstanding literary friendships with. But what matters tonight is that you're going to get to hear all of their words together. And whether they are channeling Shirley Manson from Garbage, or railing against tyrants, or putting all their chapsticks in the laundry, or exploring their legacies of family and culture and race, or being in conversation with art and cinema, I know you're going to be glad to hear all of their voices. So I'm going to shut up and you're going to get to hear them. And our first reader tonight is Ashley Elizabeth. I'm going to be putting all the bios and links to books, links to their books in the chat. So while they're reading, make sure that you take a look. And Ashley, it's all yours.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's like 7:30 here, so it's been a day. I'm an educator, so it's been a day, but I'm glad to be here sharing space with everyone tonight. Thank you, Donna, for inviting me. I'm super stoked, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started with reading. I'm going to start with a couple of poems from Black Has Every Right to Be Angry, my chap that came out in the fall. I'm really excited. And then I'm going to transition into some other works that are either coming out or things that I'm currently working on. So this first poem is called Ongoing. And this is an erasure of Sheila Gordon's Waiting for the Rain, a book that I had to read in about 7th grade. So, ongoing. Black schools give up our English, learn their English because it is better if we ignore it, using a language they could control. They were wrong. Police fire killed a boy. Children armed themselves. Police kept shooting, hundreds dead, thousands injured. War, rioting, burning, spread. Children won, went back when the plan was scrapped. I remember, young people feel their power. I understand they're throwing us a bone. Black schools, inferior education, designed to make better slaves. The next one I'm going to read is also from this chap. It's called It Is No Surprise That I Am Articulate. It's no surprise that I am articulate. My mouth now struggles with languages other than English. English has been forced down my family's throats whole, without water or relief. And the words they had inside were beaten, branded, or broken out of their breast, and they bite their tongue. We now become scared of language that only comforts and calls us home, too attached to the consolation prize of appointing ourselves Americans. And how could we, the African American people, not assimilate? Is that not what they secured for we free Blacks? To turn the Black folk in America against our cousins, a family we would have been a part of without the manifest destiny agenda of conquer, conquer, conquer. The last poem I'm going to read from this collection is called Black Hands Still Picking Cotton in 2019. When teachers think field trips to plantation and cotton field are great ideas for Black students, I know their ancestors were my ancestors' masters and scarred their backs heavily, were the ones ripping apart families for profit or pleasure or both. These teachers are also the ones who say, if we don't learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. Doomed for one community to merely exist as footholds because of the color of their skin again. I want to laugh at these white women loudly in their faces and cry. They are doing this now and don't even realize it. Don't see our children as more than poor, slang-speaking, pant-hanging thugs. Why bring in anger they already have to a boil? The anger is in our DNA. The anger is in my blood. We Black people don't need no reminders. Never have. All we need is conversation with our grandmothers to relive the pain. And our children don't need to be auctioned off, even in jest, in well-meaning dialogue. So you're right, Kitson. We're not property, nor playthings. We people. Do not forget this in the haste to dehumanize the Black body, to break Black boys. Don't worry, our children will learn their history of pain and adversities and truth, but not like that. The next poem I'm going to read comes from my debut full length that comes out in August. So I'm incredibly excited about this simply because it's probably the rawest work I've like put out. And yeah, so I'm just gonna go for it. There's a bunch of like super short poems and then a bunch of super long poems, so I'm gonna try to find like a happy middle. So this first poem is called On Vacation, I Like My Mother. Except for the love of twisty cones from Dairy Queen. We get them from the mini golf place near vacation after we giggle through never getting a hole in one. It is a treat, a loser's paradise. And I'm almost not allowed to get a cone until my father says it's okay. Because we all know I will drop or spill something. I take the time I need to swirl the flavors together with my tongue, start at to avoid sticky fingers. I almost forget my brother is here because I don't have to worry. I will not get touched because there will be a witness. And I will get attention because what else is there for my mom to do? So the next poem I'm gonna read
Ashley, I'm
is
going to
called,
interrupt you for
oh,
just a second
yeah.
because your screen is frozen, but we can hear you perfectly.
Oh,
So
oh
I don't know.
no.
Do you want to continue or do you want us to come back to you later? Do you want to try and go off and
Um
on?
let let's come back to me. That's so strange. I'll try to figure
Okay.
it out.
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly, but your screen is frozen.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I think that it maybe if you hop off and back on, we can fix that and then we'll just slot you back in to finish. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, great. I want people to be able to see you read and not just see the frozen picture on your screen. Okay, so
Appreciate it.
all right, so here, so I'm gonna, we'll switch over to our next reader then, which is Melissa, right? Melissa, whose bio I evidently just erased from my thing, so I have to go find it. Sorry, Melissa. Um, I might be able to get it back. Hold on. I'm gonna work my magic here. Ah, there it is. Okay. All right. So we're gonna switch over to Melissa Fite Johnson, whose new book just came out from Ride in Her Throat Press, and I know her publisher is here tonight. So Melissa, why don't you take over and we'll go back to Ashley and hopefully she can figure out her screen issue.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Donna. This is awesome. So yeah, I have this new book. I'm so excited about it. Courtney LeBlanc, Riot in Your Throat. She's here. Hi. And I decided I wanted to do a different set list at every reading for this book. And so tonight's theme, I decided, is poets behaving badly, which just means breaking rules in some way. So, my first poem that I'm going to start with, it takes that very literally. It was about my adolescence, and that's, when you break a certain kind of rules. So here we are. It is called When We Were Young, We Owned the Sky. Go back to when we had no clue what our majors would be, when we wondered future husbands. In art class, we drew antlers our teacher had stolen from her ex-husband's wall. It was her wall then, too. During fire drills, we charted clouds. Isn't it beautiful for the whole sky to feel like yours? We could be anyone except ourselves. In college, we shopped McDonald's for ketchup and salt, sang ourselves hoarse in the car. At night, we climbed downtown ladders, mittens and coats, played truth so much better than dare. I slipped and said I loved Nick when I knew Aaron also loved Nick. We chalked it up to great minds and buzzed more beer, lingered more cigarettes. When rain swelled the air, we opened our arms, waited to be raptured out of this town. Yeah. um, so that's like, pretty harmless, trespassing, underage drinking, whatever. But the real like rule breaking that I'm going to get to, it has to do with like what I feel okay writing and reading and what I don't. And so I'm kind of getting into the harder stuff now for me. I wrote this poem called Deciphering Grief, which I know is my friend Leah's favorite poem, so I had to find a way to work that in. So on a fun level, I broke a rule writing this poem because I wrote it with Kelly Russell Agadon in a workshop that she gave. And it was this really fun thing where she was like reading words and we were writing the poem, and whatever word she said, we had to like use it. I won't read all of them, that would take too long, but a few of them are like messy, disappear, nightgown, half asleep, horoscope. So you'll like hear those words. I broke a rule, I guess, because I didn't use the word glowworm. There was no room for glowworm in this poem. But on a much deeper level, this breaks rules because I'm writing about things that I'm not supposed to, at least according to my mother. So this is called Deciphering Grief. His left palm blossomed all attention, stronger fist. The right's messy handwriting. My father's fire gone from his whole right side. When he died, my mother wore her grief like a nightgown and rebounded with a monster. I unhooked myself from old definitions, half asleep, like in the sitcom where someone snaps and says, Earth to Melissa. I stopped reading my horoscope. I didn't want to know. I held a knife to my wrist, but knew I was being dramatic, trying to decipher like I was a character in English class. My mother's face, a full moon, white. How could I? Well, how could she? I stayed in her house longer than I should have. Better the devil you know. Better the shadows. Better the weeds. We apologized 20 years later, balanced on either side of our counselor, whose job it was to see our story in the ashes of the blaze. And then I'm really going to take a risk with this next one. It is not in any book yet. It's brand new, and it is the most honest poem I've ever written about my mother. And for a long time, I didn't go there because I just thought, I don't know, I was like protecting her. And then after a while, I'm like, I don't want to. So it's called Revisiting. And I guess like content warning, it mentions rape, but there's nothing explicit at all. Revisiting. Revisiting movies and books and shows means seeing clearly, finally, the right prescription. Every problematic moment. The shows haven't changed, you've changed. Why Holden Caulfield didn't want to revisit the museum. Holden himself, the product of a problematic man, I see that now. Though him and Jane playing checkers on her front porch, him kissing the tears from her face, lives in my heart forever. Revisiting memories means finally seeing them too. Yes, my mother said I was beautiful, but she also said, "You think you're hot shit, don't you?" when I published a book or forgot to be small. Yes, my mother listened when I told her how my boyfriend pushed and took, but she also defended her partner with, "At least he never raped me." Yes, my mother let me miss my father's funeral, sometimes understanding what I could not take. But she also said, "Fine, bitch, start the tape, bitch," when I asked her to stop leaving my dad's old letters on my bed. The tape was General Hospital. We watched the recording every night. Every conversation happened in those pauses. Laura's face framed, loving gaze at Luke, her husband who once raped her in a nightclub. Thank you. And while we're on the topic of poets behaving badly and breaking rules, I last minute turned off my video to go get Green, my last book, because Donna introduced me as that Shirley Manson comment, that was for me. So I needed to read that poem probably. And it's the first poem in my last book, and it's about my dad. So I write about both parents a lot in very different ways. In this poem, I'm the asshole instead of someone else. And so this is in the last probably weeks of my father's life when I was 16. So it's called "I'm Only Happy When It Rains." It gets its title from the Garbage song. My song came on and I jerked the volume up, stomped on the gas, sang along. My only comfort is the night gone by. Since his laryngectomy, my father couldn't talk. He studied me from the passenger seat. I had to chauffeur him around after his strokes. I wished the Toyota were a rocket shooting me out of this town. Pour your misery down on me. The song ended. I'd cried through the last chorus. I'm riding high upon a deep depression. I'm only happy when it rains. He gestured to his paralyzed side, his right hand a claw resting in his lap, his right leg limp against the car door. He pointed to his chest, mouthed, "Me too." He struggled to sit up. "Me too." Thank you. Thank you. I have two more. This rule is, I guess, two silly rules I'm breaking. One of them is you're never supposed to say your age, I guess. And so in this poem, I name my age. Only now I'm even older than I was. So it says I'm 41, but I am 42. And I guess another content warning, the other one is I will name people that you're probably not supposed to name. Like honestly, to this day, I'm like, is it okay that I name them? So it's not Macaulay Culkin though. I feel fine naming Macaulay Culkin. So this is called "When Macaulay Culkin Was the World's Biggest Star." I was rinsing my filmy watercolor cup, having carried that morning's sunrise with me into fourth grade art. We all got two plastic columns of Easter egg colors and a brush that scratched against the paint. No one was counting on me for box office gold, just not to spill onto my neighbor's paper. I feel like I know Macaulay Culkin, as if being children at the same time means we grew up together. In this way, I also know the Columbine shooters, all of us seniors in high school. When they were killing, when their lives were ending, I was in AP Spanish, on a day when half the class was absent, so we played Trivial Pursuit in English. Eric Harris is still 18, Dylan Klebold, 17, and Macaulay Culkin is alive, but he's 10 forever. Red sweater and toy rifle strap. I am 41. No one tells me they can't believe I'm 41. They can. And then thank you. my last poem is that I just noticed Donna's comment. You're right. Whose rule is that? We all should say our ages. I'm 42, darn it. Time has passed since that poem was published. So my last poem is like breaking, I guess, a societal rule, which is that my husband and I have chosen not to have children, and we're like super happy about it. And people get very uncomfortable when I talk about how happy we are not having children. And so this is called How Dare Anyone Say I Don't Know Love? Because, you know, people say that. They're like, oh, I didn't know love until I saw. And I'm like, I feel like I know love. All right. Anyway, so how dare anyone say I don't know love? Because I never prayed to the ceiling and pushed. Because I never held a hybrid you, me, and named it. Unconceived ghost. I can almost see dancing, barefoot in sprinkler mist. Beautiful dream I've never wanted. People explain my sad life to me. People explain dogs are not children. How dare anyone say I don't know what I'm missing? They don't know what they're missing. Our bed, not quite an island. Our bed, a peninsula. We slip into sleep instead of making dinner. We order in, we linger. I don't post this love because not everyone has it. I don't poem this love. Private drawer, quiet corner. They don't know what they're missing. Our matador hearts, our greenhouse love. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Wonderful poems. Please get both of her books. They're both wonderful. All right, Ashley is back. Let's try it again, Ashley. So part 2, Ashley. Let's see how it goes.
Hopefully this works this time. I don't know what's going on. I think my Wi-Fi cut out real quick, but you know, life is
Yes.
life today, so that's okay.
You are now moving, so I think all is good. All right.
Okay, good. So this next poem I'm gonna read is also from my debut full length, which I'm like over the moon for. And this is called More to Vickers Road Than the Address. So 20-minute car ride feels like an adventure, an escape to giggling without recourse, or anyone saying stop. Real family lived here once. Laundry swayed on the backyard clothesline. We played tag between the sheets, then folded the sticky outside air into bathroom towel. Mrs. Bailey from next door asked if we want something sweet and cool because we are such good children. He is always baking cookies, or about to bake cookies, or just bake cookies, or doesn't want to finish her ice cream alone. We mind our manners with a no thank you, ma'am. Turn back to quick games of she loves me not, loves me more, while saffron petals settle petty arguments with older brother behind why our parents really love me more. Still true. Baby cousin is too young to understand, waddles off to plop on the black graded stairs, waits for Grams to come back, wicker basket in hand. This house holds a cared for version of me that has never been touched. So this collection was a labor of love. And it's kind of weird to be able to say was because I never thought I'd be able to finish this collection, especially so soon. And so I'm going to read like maybe 1 or 2 more from this collection and then one from another chapter that's coming out in the fall. And this is A Taste of Memory and Mashed Potatoes. Pour in the milk until you think it's enough, baby. Go ahead, don't be scared. Pour with your left and stir with the right. Go slow, make sure it's right. Throw a fork in and taste it. What's it missing? The test to memory. What's it missing, little one? Salt, just a little, more than a little pepper. Taste again. What's it missing? I stir one more good stir for a 9-year-old and grab another fork. Taste again. Kiss my grandmother on the cheek on the way to the pantry for just a little extra. I look at her as I sprinkle, a slight smile, an indicator that's enough. No need to taste again until on plate. Like a lot of this collection like centers around my grandmother, my father's mother, who I used to spend like weekends, summers at her house when I was a kid because I just didn't want to be home. Which, sorry if you're listening, Mom, I don't think you are, but still, her house was just better. And so my grandmother died around 2013. And then recently, like within the past year or two, I saw my cousin on Facebook selling some of her stuff. So I wrote a poem about that because I was just so upset. So this is called On the Marketplace. My cousin is selling her dead grandmother's things. 150 for dining set, 400 for king size bedroom. If I was there, if I had space for other people's grief, their ghosts and things, it'd be mine. But both my house and my heart are too small. 400 firm, the childhood I don't want to run from. Sounds like a steal. And so that book is supposed to come out in August. It's not just about my grandmother, but my mother, she'll be okay. Um, and then this next poem I'm going to read is from my chapbook Charm, which is about Baltimore, where I live, where I grew up. So yes, this is on West Mulberry and MLK. The city fenced off the underpass as if it is a personal attack or inconvenience that others don't have homes or places to sleep. So people relieve themselves in alleys and market corners since there is no other place for heat. All they want is a couple dollars, some spare change. They already have to ask for basics, dignity be damned. But we have vacant homes, more than enough. Why can't the city give them space nobody is using? Or is it because there will be no return? Tent City don't hurt nothing but the image of a bright Baltimore. Charm City, it is not. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy we got to actually see you instead of just hear you. I'm glad we did that, did the come back around. Those new poems from that new book are amazing. I can't wait for it to come out. All right, and our next reader is Joseph Lezza. Joseph, it's all yours.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for having me. Thanks to everybody for attending tonight. It's been awesome to just witness this great work, and I can't wait to hear more about it. I can't hear, guys. Now, pardon me. So I'm going to be reading from my book, which is called I'm Never Fine, Scenes and Spasms on Loss. Just celebrated its first birthday a couple of months ago, which is nuts. And it is, funnily enough, largely essay. It is a memoir in essays. But there is poetry in here, and I particularly love being here tonight because I rarely get the opportunity to visit the poetry that's in this book. I originally wrote the pieces when I was structuring it to sort of serve as section breaks. And then when I was working with my editor, came to realize that I needed actual section breaks, and that the poems themselves instead began to work as really more as tonal shifts as the book moves along, facilitating these shifts from light to dark, dark to light. You get the drift. But I'm super excited to share it with you guys just because the book itself is, a large portion of it captures a period of my life when I was a caregiver to a parent with pancreatic cancer, and then sort of the aftermath following their passing. And I know, right? Another grief memoir, guys. But this one is a little bit different. When I sat down to write it, I wanted to obviously capture the moment, but what I really wanted to do was try to confront this idea that grief in and of itself is something that is winnable in some way, that it's like a game. And if you play it right, and if you follow the right rules, and if you pay attention to the stages, it'll go away, and it never does. So instead, once we realize that it never does, we just start telling people that we're fine because we're just tired of talking about it. And so instead I said, well, let me just write a book about everything that's underneath all of the fine. I'll write about how it happened. I'll capture the tragic stuff, the beautiful stuff, but it's not just going to be this like triumph of the will. Like, I'm going to talk about the messes, the mistakes, the stuff that I'm not proud of, because maybe somebody out there might read this and think, okay, I'm not the only one effing this up. So anyway, I'm going to start with a piece from the beginning of the book that takes place essentially on surgery day, of which I remember very little. And most of these poems are born out of those moments that, are really just images, glimpses that I wanted to explore in some way, but I didn't feel like I could capture it in long form. So this is called At the Castle Antonia. What is it? In a tangle of wires and tubes, the father springs back to life with a question. A gurgle as machines bubble and wheeze, filtering blood spiked with twilight. Antiseptic cherry cola, shaken, swollen, and placed back on the shelf. Against mercurial fluorescence, floating, figures in robes of mineral wool bend forth, revealing disciples, hands cupped to catch the mystery of faith from half-woken lips. Is it cancer? No answers, only shushes and a cradled face. He has fallen for the first time. Behind a scrim, discolored khaki on a ceiling track, 1,000 passion plays are performed at various stages. Reluctant audiences who overslept in Gethsemane sweat to catch up, while elsewhere, on the other side of the curtain, Pontius Pilate, lobbying for life, flips off a microscope and washes his hands. This next piece I wrote with the intention of sort of capturing, I think when you're dealing with, an illness and you're facing the potential loss of somebody, you tend to look for things that maybe aren't there, maybe seeing things that you want to see versus the things that actually are. So this piece is called Nice Clean Margins. There's a phrase you can pick up if you spend enough time kicking around cancer wards: clean margins. It's what surgeons look for when they decide to go Gordon Ramsay on the pesky nibs and knobs of us that start to go bad. Nice, clean margins. It's what they ask the lab to look for under the scope as the patient lies spatchcocked on the operating table. Clean tissue, free of visible disease. The high-res go-ahead to lace you back up. Maybe they get a little greedy while they're in there, slice off a little extra, a little more than they really need, just to be safe, just to avoid having to open someone back up. There's another phrase you may be just as unfamiliar with, less medical in nature: green leaf volatiles. It's that sweet, dense funk of fresh cut grass, a scent so visceral, it practically smells electric green. So entranced have we grown with the smack of summer, so transfixed, we got so busy bottling it and selling it, we failed to learn that burning on our mantles and dangling with our delicates is chemical warfare. Methanol, ethanol, acetone, our lawn's violent emission in response to damage. A dirty bomb we suck down like a slushy. So blind drunk, we cut a little closer, drop the blade a notch or two below where we should. Maybe we nick some roots along the way, leave a few knuckles bloody. Long as the lawn is even, long as it buys more time. Surgeons do it to avoid going back in. Groundskeepers do it to avoid going back out. It's all just an exercise in buying time. So you missed a spot, no matter. Step back and the margins look clean. So the knuckles bleed, no matter. Step back and the grass will hide it. So what if from this very moment it all begins to grow back with a vengeance? Step back, step back, step back far enough where the view is clear and the smell is splendid and the grass stops screaming. This next piece occurs in the latter half of the book after death and is one of those, essentially just an exploration of, again, one of those images that latches onto your brain that you can't quite shake and you don't quite know why, because it seems on its surface not to be very significant until you start to write about it. So this piece is called Margarita. Mom orders a margarita. We don't serve alcohol, says the waitress, and I know this won't end well. Dad had asked for it by name, not pizza, an echo, 8 slices of a former life. One bite to wash away sin, to paint his veins with nightshade, his white blood fior di latte. To let the devil have his skin, that he might grow epicarp, olive, dance in the ash spittle of the grove hearth where a boy of 50, was he ever that young, plucks him from a branch to make himself a banquet before the cancer can. Before it slides across the table, a heap, a red, rutted tumble down onto a single splotch of cheese, his immune system on thin crust. Made from dust and to dust, it returns in his mouth, where there is no taste, only victory in gnashing before the surrender, if just to take flesh off the foe, who lays waste to the grove, who leaves him shivering in June, in our heat-stung eyes, where shivers may be dancing, flower may be ash, and olives may be cured. This final piece from this book I want to read because of the way loss introduces you to grief and death. And I think the cosmic joke of it all is that death, as I said at the beginning, never quite leaves. It's just kind of a friend, if you can call it a friend, that you allow to move into your life and take up space. And sometimes you acknowledge it, sometimes you don't, but it gets its hooks in, and you kind of you live a life somewhat altered forever. So this piece is called In Defense of the Apple. God never damned the apple. That's not what launched Eve from the garden. It was fruit from a tree, nondescript fruit from the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die, said God, wrote the Hebrews. Peri, wrote the Hebrews. Fleshy fruit, any fruit, no fruit, pomegranate, apricot, wheat, wine, offspring, fruit of the womb. As Michelangelo scrawled a fig on the Sistine, his Latin brothers chose malice. Apple, yes, also evil. Depends on how you read it. God never damned the apple. Too, because I love them. Eat them by the bushel, the barrel, eat them whole, seeds and all. I like how they taste of licorice. That's the cyanide, my mother warns. Same thing they took at the People's Temple. Same thing some 900 disciples drank at the Last Supper, right before they turned their backs to the garden they'd sown under the Guyanese sky. All is lost, said the father, die with dignity. I suppose only the morning sun could judge. The truth is, an apple can't poison you, not on its own. I'd have to suck an orchard through a swizzle stick to get to Jonestown. Still, my mother worries. I like the seeds. I like how they taste of licorice. God never damned the apple. John Milton did, with his pen. With an apple he thereat offended, wrote John. He hath given up both his beloved man and all this world. Paradise lost. All is lost. Conviction not by the Father, but by the Son, the Son of sons, the great-great-grandson, some millennia down the tree, a poet, no less. And if his words can sentence, perhaps mine can commute, or at least force a retrial. The fact remains, no amount of verse will filter out the toxins, but an apple's poison does not beget a poison apple. So I'll keep eating, seeds and all, not to offend the father, not to vex the mother, not to harm the self, not to leave the garden. I will eat to keep 1 foot off the ground, to peek over the hedge wall, to figure out which side we're on. So those are the 4 pieces from the book itself. And I wanted to read one more, and damn it if I don't know what to read now, because Donna, you put me on blast with the chapstick at the beginning, so I feel like I have to read that one. But there's also a new piece that may be coming out next month. I don't know. I got an offer, but I got no paperwork, so we'll see what happens with that one, guys. Oh, Donna's saying a new one. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna read this one. This is a piece that I wrote that I got the idea for flying to Kansas City on a plane, and halfway wrote it in my head flying back, and spent the following couple of days just putting this down on paper. I don't know where it came from, but I kind of love it. So this is called Call Me Baby. Because of the way that guy at 626 touched my hip as he was trying to get to the bar. Because of the way that other guy lifted me up on the pier at South Street Seaport and said, "You're not average build." I'm not sure I've ever come down. Not fully. Call Me Baby, though, because I'll never put it on my playlist, I secretly love that Amy Grant song. Because it's still the kindergarten frolic, and I'm still that number 2 pencil, and my hat is an eraser, so let's write some new mistakes. Because I'm also somehow 37, and my knees are already weak, so half the work is already done. Call me baby, because if you call in the next 15 minutes, I'll throw in a free tote bag. Because somewhere I'm crying at the hometown tavern after that straight boy kissed me, after he told everyone he would. Because he knew I wanted it, because he knew I'd let him, just because he could. Call me baby, because things are getting iffy and I don't know what to make of the world, or worse, what it will make of me. Call me baby, and do it outside, in public, because for now, they still let us. And do it cool, because my neck is burning to sweep the surroundings. And do it slow, because I want to live in it. And do it now, because this deal ends at midnight. Call me baby, or babe, or Bob even, because if we're being honest, I'm not sure anyone ever has. Call me baby. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you read that one. People can go online and read the chapstick one. That's amazing. I hope you get your contract, because I want to be able to read that poem
I
again.
also too. I hope it's coming, guys, any day now.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Our next reader for tonight, I had the pleasure of hearing for the first time at AWP in Kansas City. So it is now time for Karen Rigby. Take it away, Karen.
Thank you, Donna, and everyone for being here. I'm going to be reading to you from Fabulosa, which is my second collection. And everything that you're going to hear today features either an athlete or a celebrity. So this very first poem features a figure skating program from the Vancouver Olympics. To Johnny Weir on I Love You, I Hate You. Transgression isn't hot pink boarding down the center of your chest as much as the articulated pose. Each muscle frozen in exuberance. The AP photo I love for your green-eyed envy of nothing and no one. Elbows out, fingers splayed in sheer black gloves, The instant I think you know, each sequence is obsession honed to art, each edge a fretwork left on ice. It isn't the single tassel, also pink, no apology, or the oil slick corset, but how performance masks the hours. The sound of blades beneath the music, the Colosseum breathless at the next jump. It isn't a boy beginning to dream in Quarryville, a cornfield swarmed in snow, but the speed of desire. Each clockwise spin, each gesture a spiked rose. When de Blasio's rumba turns, I think of nights I woke in Pittsburgh alone, dogwood beginning to open, the avenue stippled in orange light. I wanted nothing and everything. In that brick pre-war apartment, I lived through seasons of no answer. The end of grief is the beginning of fire, as when the last note sunders air. On Marion Cotillard's 2008 Oscar dress. Glamour is a mermaid silhouette. Jean-Paul Gaultier in scalloped lines, X-Pac sweeping to a fishtail hem. Never mind white like wedding cake piping or fit like second skin. What I love about sleeveless couture is negative space. Collarbone, shoulders, neck, fugitive as the first raucous. The dress stops everyone on the red carpet, including me, the viewer at home, a silk aerialist spiraling onto the stage. It's that color of palladium, the exact moment thread galvanizes air. The day I watched you playing Edith Piaf, I understand the brute song housed in the chest finds a way out. What's in a dress? Stitch, scaffold, silver edge, a piano hammering notes pure as jet. The best dress I ever wore was forest green velvet tapered to a bee's waist. The skirt hung like a bell. Glamour is muscle-made movement, a body turned soul. Derby hats. Cartwheel hats, feathers and fascinators at Churchill Downs, each one a ringed planet. Give me the black picture hat, danger slung over one eye, a hat to stop thoroughbreds in their patterns. Not the ay caramba hat, loud as a multiplex, or the upbeat Breton and pastel straw, but the milliner's best fabulosa hat paired with elbow-length gloves. You know the one, Gloria Swanson's poolside brim taking its place in the sun. Not the veiled pillbox, revival peach baskets, buckets, or cloches. I want the glamorous panther skulking right in the center of the grandstand, the silk funereal hat adorned with nothing but a lethal pin. The merciless hat, the damned hat blocked on a wooden mold, shaped to midnight perfection. Hat a villainous wears on coastal drives. I want the Hollywood hat to motor in, the hat he'll book me in. Now, this next one is inspired by the Sochi Olympics. To Carolina Costner on Bolero. Because I live for the comeback, staged in black, cold expanse waiting to be writ. Because I love the way one arm lifts in time to what Ravel imagined as a masterpiece with no music, repetition made magic only because each shift intensifies. Piston or hammer in the ear, I love the ice that brings us here, across the years spent counting spins, an illusionist flight of doves, or Samara in the rain. Because I've walked through gray cities, gray futures, I love the sudden break as evidence of nothing, exactly, the surface of things tattooed with light, for a cloud leads the hill. I still believe in beauty, a measured movement, a name fogged on a bus pane. Whatever we love is already leaving, whatever we touch dissolves. Now, one last one This one is based on a BBC drama called The Hour, and it's about a fictional current affairs news show. Watching Freddie Lyon in The Hour. I think about wiry Sangford and how my favorite TV men are rebels with devil-may-care hair. Chip on a shoulder, cloak and dagger. The draw about misfits who love without being able to say and so resort to barbed lines is that we're all Freddie, too obstinate in a borrowed tux. I like that certain petulance, full of confidence, played by Ben Whishaw, just as I like Belle Rowley, his BBC producer, played by Romola Garai, whose tailored columns are dynamite in a bell jar. I get the reserve which I suffer, whether it comes from a British ancestor who left me with the plainest surname, or whether I'd have come by indirectness anyway. In 1950s London, Freddie traces the murder of a debutante. And while it's never equivalent, I know a little about trying to reconcile pain with what you later learn. How obsession molts and returns, the same idea shedding as it goes, each time more glittering, so that at last the snake is the spy in the nest you thought your own. What do we owe memory? Freddie's dead friend haunts him, even as Hungry and the Suas stain the reels. About getting the truth right, I've spent my life wanting answers. Why one body's a message while another is silenced? What happens after news that stays news grows cold? I thought everything mattered. Nobody heard. I, too, mistook the word salvo for salve. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so looking forward to this book now that I've heard you read twice and I've heard different poems each time. So thank you so much. Very exciting. And last but not least, we're going to turn it over to Leah. Leah, it's all yours.
Excellent. Hi, everyone. Karen, that was so great. Let me dismiss this. Love pop culture poems, and I don't know if I have any in my new book of Tyrant. But I'm drafting some. I'm in the middle of watching Shogun, and I'm like obsessed. And I'm on season 4 of Bob's Burgers, which I know I'm late to the program, but I think I might write some Bob's Burgers poems, because it just makes me so happy. All right, I just want to set my timer. Okay. I have a couple students here tonight, so I'm excited to have them here. I hope they're enjoying themselves. And okay, I'm going to read the title poem. And this poem was inspired by a fortune cookie. The fortune cookie is the epigraph of the poem. We are made to persist. That is how we know who we are. I remember keeping that in my wallet for a long time. And one day I sat down and I wrote this poem. And I wrote many of the Tyrant poems, and then it became a larger manuscript. And it's in, I think, 8 parts. 1, I fetch the rage. 2, I fetch the rage and chaos in the heel of this butchering, in the squeezing of the heart, listening or not, to his word, to his garbage. It's all lies. I won't. 3, he is an open fire. 4, the anger unsettles the heart, turns to cowering, to foul, to flight, into air, into glass, blast us all into slick, into sick, into darkness. 5, who needs loyalty when all is pounded into fatigue? I cannot reiterate this enough. The past isn't dead. Embrace these rough edges, the corrosive doors, the tipping of lies, the tangle of webs or thorns or tweets. I can't. 6, Jimmy Kimmel says it is like someone has opened a window into hell. I can't sink this rage. It stills itself into flame. I can barely stay positive. Not now, not now, not now. He can't make me say never. Never you mind. The rise to rage is not of fury, but of tyrants, of tyrants. 7, I will turn. I will turn my gaze away from flames. I will turn my gaze upward, skybound and wide. 8. Gather, gather your good appetite, gather your filling of hate. So I think in many ways the tyrant, there's many tyrants in all of our lives, political, personal, and so forth. Sometimes they use hate to, get us all on top of each other. And so this book really kind of festers in that, but then it also moves around it and tries to push the hate out and bring hope in. This is called I Want to Wear the Crown. A teacher at school tells me the Constitution starts with the people and ends with the people. He says the Constitution protects the people against tyranny. And I think, what protects the people from the people? What protects the people from themselves? My horoscope tells me the year ahead is my emerald year and that I'm going to wear the crown. The other day, I overheard my friend say to her dog, "How do you live with someone so miserable?" Every one of us is important, and I want to wear the crown. I want to mind the brilliant exception that the regard with which I give myself to others is not shortchanged, is not a testament to sorrow or to slight, but an endless attraction to everything and nothing. Who doesn't know the capacity of their heart, its limits, the grace with which it exhausts in on itself, as an accordion, the sureness of its belief, its because, and its inhibitions? It loved me, and it loved me, and it loved me, and therefore the very definition of the self was behind and forward, a despair of connection, an exile of the piecing of time. Therefore. This next poem was inspired by the news. And today in my 10 honors class, we read some Martina Spada poems because I'm doing like a small poetry unit for National Poetry Month. And this is a big prose poem. And there's an epigraph. After it is announced that the ICE detains more children at the border on June 22nd, 2018. I'm on the 2 train to Penn Station, worn and worried, but big-hearted and drawn in. This is the moment when you almost want to shake me, but you don't, because my feelings are shorthand for my hope. On this day, everyone is thumbing their anger and carelessly flipping off the quiet. This is the moment when you almost want to pull me out of this scene, but you can't because the doors have just closed. It is a surreal juxtaposition, an experiment in pettiness. I came in after. A man was yelling at a woman, "Do you know how I feel? Do you know how I feel?" To which the woman responded, "I said I was sorry. I didn't see you." The man badgers on, "You stepped on me. You didn't feel that?" I look around. I'm standing by the door. I feel the threat on my throat. I feel the brutality in my knees. This is the moment when you want to tell me I'm being dramatic. And I am, but I feel it in my gut, in my spleen. That anger needs a bigger destination. Suddenly, the gates of hell fly open, stubborn and raging. There are 2 small children, tourists, I think, watching, hiding behind their mother at the door. Another man saddles out of his apathy with, "She said she was sorry." And the first man turns like a thief caught in a robbery, and I see his face go blank. He turns again to the woman. "What are you going to do about the children? What are you going to do about the children?" The story could end here, but sometimes the world goes red. Sometimes the world flails and burns. This is a larger mystery. I avert my gaze and look at the woman sitting closest to where I stand. She's on her cell phone reading what looks like the Bible. The Lord fights so you can stay quiet. And I wish for a second that I had that kind of faith. Don't we all want to pick a fight with this world? "Stay quiet," I mutter to no one. "Stay quiet," I mutter to the door. "Stay quiet," I mutter to the platform. "Stay quiet," I mutter to my heart. Stay quiet. All right, I think I'm going to switch to some new poems. So my new manuscript, which is currently called Ordinary Splendor, is very different than A Tyrant, which I really wrote, years ago, because I've been sending it out for a long time. My new collection is poems of joy and love and wonder, and they're very different than poems about tyranny. So I'm going to read a couple. This is called Fog Sonnet. Outside is the white of the day, separated from the morning fog, separated from the fog of day. I see the squirrels hoard. I see the extending of branch under branch, down, down, down the trunk of the tree, stretching, thinning out to the head of the river top, its open tongue lapping the cream of sky. Each branch bending back and forward, jutting its fingers into day. I know better than to separate my joys and fears. They are one of the same. I try to be careful, balance myself on the thin. So much is out there across the riverbank. So much under the fog, it is almost playing with me. The moist land at the cusp, the orange leaves, the tall pine overhead. I remind myself there are some things we cannot see. There are some things we aren't meant to see. The river changes every second. There are 10 rivers, 5 rivers, 15 rivers. There is one river in the white of day outside. All right, I got 2 more for you. This next one is called River House, and it's very lyrical and it's kind of like all over the page. River House. The light is touching everything, and I am here singing myself, singing you into this world, into my world. This is the air, this the sky, and this the river flowing. Here, singing in currents, in turn, in currents, in yearn. We all yearn. We all are yearning for something. The truth is, the spire of a day is long and tall and longing, and fall and longing, and all lives in a day. And this day, the hope, it lavenders around, simmers in ground, solitude and gray, and maybe that is enough. Still, there is love, there is beauty, there are hands, there are eyes and lips, and I want the light to touch us here in this river house, this house on the river. Come light, come through the glass, the pane, come through and over and in. And I'm going to end with this one, which I wrote in the comments before that like Facebook influences so many poems. And I think it's one of the best things about social media is that it totally influences lots of poems that I write. So I have a friend, Sarah Marcus Donnelly, who has this Instagram account that's a bird cam. And like, I don't know when I became obsessed with birds, but every time I look at her bird cam account, it's like these little cartoon birds, like it's crazy. Their faces are crazy. And so her bird cam entered this poem, and I promised her when it gets picked up somewhere, I'm going to have an epigraph for her. Thank you so much, everyone. Any Kind, for Robert Harris, D.A. Powell, and Sarah Marcus Donnelly. Look up. The sky is never constant, sometimes clouded, but always full of light somewhere. Even the sky can take something beautiful, like the sun, like a star, and deposit it elsewhere. Your eye will find it, and the sky will turn out its pockets in despair, saying, the moon is now caught in the eucalyptus branches. My friend has a bird cam, and oh, how I love the large bird faces that motor up to its great big eye, unsuspecting, hungry, curious. It is a great surprise. It is like a street one happens upon, like an unexpected roadside view on a highway, a live act of care, a touch, or any kind gesture to show how we live, love, and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you to all 5 of our readers this evening. You were all fantastic. Thank you to our audience. We had a nice, robust audience this evening as well. We really appreciate you being here. I know there were a multitude of readings tonight, so we thank you for being here for this one. And then just as a reminder, that we did record this. So if you have a friend that missed it that you think might enjoy it, it will be on YouTube probably by tomorrow morning. Also, if you don't follow the series on social media, I'm going to put that information into the chat one more time. Our next official reading is May 23rd, where we'll have participants, I think, including Leah, readers from the Braving the Body anthology, each reading their poem that's in the anthology, and maybe a special reading on May 6th to gather a bunch of people who are writing the poem a day in April. So watch social media for an announcement about that. Thank you all so much, as always, for showing up. I started this, almost 3 years ago, not knowing if anybody would ever come. So I'm always thrilled to have such brilliant readers and to have such a lovely audience participate. But I do want to respect everybody's time. So I will say thank you again for being here. Thank you to our readers who were so wonderful. And I'm going to stop the recording and say good night. Good night, everyone.
Thank you again. It was